Good evening, everyone. This is Layla.
And I'm Drew.
We're here with that Vocal Fry podcast.
Hey, it's where we talk about issues and ideas from more of a psychological perspective. And this week we wanted to talk about like chemical dependency. We've been kind of talking about that in our personal life.
And Pharmica.
Pharmica, yep. But first, last week's episode, Vic Meow left a comment and said, maybe next week you guys can explore the spirit animal thing. It seemed to pop up out of nowhere a few years ago, and the Hive embraced the opportunity to share that attribute of themselves on their social media pages. So, yeah, we can touch on this first before we get into the chemical dependency.
Yeah, real quick we can.
Go ahead, I'll pull up some spirit animal images.
Sure.
And real quick, if you're watching this somewhere in the ether, like maybe on the Conspirotainment Radio Network or anywhere else, just look up chalkbodyoutline.com or chalkbodyoutline on YouTube. Got all kinds of other content out there, but go ahead.
Yeah. So first off, I mean, every culture, religion has its animal imagery. I love the one where the Australian Aboriginals believe that the world and universe are just being dreamed up by a giant kangaroo. That's just like the funniest, like coolest thing to me. I don't remember what culture it is exactly. I know it's one of the Nordic ones. So maybe you could look that up to like correct me here if I'm wrong. But they believe that the earth is like, I think like their model of space was like the earth being carried on a giant like turtle's back.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah. And then, you know, the Bible too itself uses all the imagery of the animals. I mean, you have the Lamb of God, you have the Holy Ghost being used in the image of the dove coming down. You have the seraphim that has the four faces. You have, you know, the man's face, eagle face, bull face, lion face. So God uses animal imagery to speak to you somehow, and you know, Jesus used the donkey, so God's gonna use what God's gonna use you know, no matter what it is, to get through to you. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It's turtle earth, not flat earth. Crater earth.
Yeah, it's not crater earth. It's not crater earth, it's turtle earth.
Yeah, but you know, shout out to animals. Animals are cool because they live fully in their nature as they're intended to, and they can't deviate from that, even a domesticated animal, right? So it's like you can obviously like train qualities out of an animal and water it down until it's like a weaker version of itself, which is like the domesticated animals you have, you know, but you can't ever completely invert the nature of it. It's still gonna have its nature intact the way it was meant to. So like you can't train a dog to have bird instincts, right? But
you can train a boy to become a girl.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, you can. The human being, and that was the
human being is very malleable.
Yeah, scary. Yeah, that was Nietzsche. I like to read him. I know a lot of the truthers will talk about how he's like a Jewish Jesuit psyop, which is totally fine with me. But I do like to take some like, you know, thought from what he says. And I know he's got that one famous line that says, you know, man is the most domesticated animal of all. But I think that's so true in the sense that you can invert human nature completely under man's nose and get him to love it and blame the consequences on other things. So you have depression, alcoholism, addictions, and all these psychological issues that you get from living in reverse nature.
Yeah. Where do you think this like spirit animal thing came from?
Oh, well, you know,
to me, it's one of those things like those quiz you take to find out like what kind of like popcorn you are or whatever, you know what I mean? Like just a social media driven thing for them to push out there. But I think deep underlying, there's got to be a little bit of something to it, because we all know, you know, y'all got an aunt or something that's obsessed with like owls or elephants or something, you know what I mean? Like that people are just naturally drawn to, some people I should say are naturally drawn to some certain types of animals.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that goes back to how I said, like, in the cultures and religions forever, animal imagery has been used to reflect life. You know, you see that in all of those ancient texts and such. Even the Bible, you know, itself has the same. But I love the comment from our last live. I think it was Tinfoil that left it, where he said, all the new age is just repackaged Gnosticism, which I love that because, like, end podcast, that's pretty much everything we're talking about here. Like, that sums it up so perfectly. It's just these old concepts taken from here, there, everywhere, and repackaged to you in this trend that catches on, that people, you know, run with. And I think it's one of those things that's easy to fill, like, those voids and stuff too. Like, and especially because people want to believe in, like, these magical supernatural things. Like, they don't want to be like normal, you know, they all want to be different in some way. And I
Yeah,
think
they
it's
want
one
to
of
be
those
magical.
things. Yeah, like that unicorn right there.
Yeah,
know?
they want to believe in a fantasy.
Yeah, it is fantasy. And you know, I think it's easy for people to get caught up in these things because it does go back to how they try to completely invert the human nature, right? So it's like you see it as being human isn't enough. And I think the Starseed thing is kind of the exact same psychological trope as this. It's like they want to get you
Palladian,
focused.
Starseed or whatever.
Yeah. Like your soul is really like an alien from a different galaxy and you're in a human body. And I think it's the same idea where it's like they want you to disdain being human and fully human. So it's like you have the idea that humanity just sucks and everything about it is terrible and miserable. So you want to fantasize about these other things that make you feel good and kind of give you that sense of power in a way, or like self-identity, or just like, you know, that there's something beyond this realm, because there's a lot of pain and hurt and depression that comes with it. And a lot of that is really because of the propaganda and how we've been like steered so far from how we're supposed to be living.
Yeah, it's the same way they get the libs, or just call them commies to, you know, hate America and what your own land and people and everything, and they can get the worldwide scale the same thing. It could get people to invert their human nature, but there's got to be something to it too. Like I said, like the Jungian archetypes or something of what these animals represent, because they do have like you know, they represent something that people are drawn to.
Yeah, oh, I believe so. And it's, yeah, I'm not completely discrediting it in the sense of like, you know, the animal imagery is used to reflect nature and life and cycles and phases, right? So you have, let's think like the biblical ones, like you have the dove as representative of the Holy Ghost, right? And that's a bird. So it makes sense.
Right.
You know. And yeah, like the animals do tend to embody the archetypes, and I think that's why they've been used throughout every culture and religion everywhere throughout time. You'll see that. And even in the, you know, like a lot of the angels have like those attributes too, and you have all of the crazy imagery from Revelation, which is heavily focused on animals, beasts and such. I think people use it in a way to like see themselves as they want to be, not as they are, but how they want to be. Like, and because it's always a powerful animal, like you're always a wolf, a tiger, a bear, or they're like a owl, an eagle, you know, some strong, powerful animal. Like if it was,
you're never a worm or something.
You're never a tapeworm. You're never a maggot. You're never a parasite. You don't see those people. It's always the cool, like tough, pretty animals. See, if this was really a thing, be a lot more worms out there, put it that way. Leeches.
I totally agree.
You know,
I think
which there's nothing wrong with like
there's nothing wrong with being a worm.
You know, there's nothing wrong with like, you know, really liking the animal imagery and like the qualities of the animal. Like I love animals, you know, I think they're great, and I think it is because they are like, they're so simple in the sense that they're just in their nature all the time, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. It's probably, represents what they wish they could be.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good answer. And then, so thanks to Vic Meow. And if you guys got any questions on any of these types of topics like that you want us to touch on in a future episode, just leave a comment. But what we've been talking about kind of in our personal life recently has been like chemical dependency, and I thought that was probably like a good topic to get into, even though it's completely different to what we started on. But
It is, but it isn't.
yeah, we could probably tie it into it, I bet.
Yeah.
I would just say got me talking about a little bit was Benton. Shout out to nightmaredystopia.com. It looks like he's back on the bottle again, and I'll confront him about it tomorrow night live on D Live, 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 Central. But that's if he shows up. No, not just Benton, but other people we've known in real life too. Like there's been people kind of like falling off the wagon, and that's why we've been talking about it too. Is number one, first of all, it's like the mainstream or whatever, they all present this idea to you that it's a disease. What do you think about that?
I don't think it's a disease at all.
No.
I'll get into that in a second. I just wanted to say one quick shout out to Benton is that he's very honest.
Oh yeah, he won't. At least doesn't deny it or anything.
And I respect that.
Yeah, totally.
You know, I know it's not easy for him. I respect that though, because a lot of drug addicts, alcoholics, will do the denial thing until they die. Like they will never admit it. So I at least appreciate that about Benton a lot. That
Yeah,
he
I
can
agree.
be that way. You got to give him that no matter what. But yeah, no, it's not a disease. That's a lie that has been sold to sick people to get them in that revolving pharmacy door forever, rehab door for the rest of their life, basically. Because if it's a disease, it's out of your control. You have to go to the doctor. You have to go through all these therapies.
12-step program.
Yes, your 12-step program. No, addiction is I don't know, people don't like this. I might get in trouble for saying this, but I mean, I grew up in a house full of addicts. So, I mean, it's something I've observed my entire life. It's a choice you make to take the substance for whatever reason you're taking it, and it becomes a chemical dependency. Yeah.
We're just showing a crazy looking guy in a GIF. If you're only listening to the audio later, that's why we're laughing. But yeah,
It becomes a habit.
And it becomes a mental crutch
Absolutely.
that people rely on. And then a lot of times, a lot of people will just have excuses or try to explain it away. That's why you were saying there, Benton will just say, yeah, I'm back on the bottle because I don't want to deal with what's going on in the real world. There's not many people, I think, that do that.
No.
Most of them can just deny it away forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the way it's been sold to people because the rehabs, let me tell you, the rehabs make bank off of these people. They don't want these people to get better. That's why you have people that have been in rehab 300 times in their life. It's meant to keep you coming back. Oh man.
Yeah, just like any of the
It's a
medical industry, it's like why would they cure you when they can just put you on like pills and then you're on the pills the rest of your life? There's no reason to cure the underlying causes of it when they can just mask it. And then you have the whole thing of what you wanted to talk about. I think the pharmaca, where they get you on these dang pills, and this is like socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Imagine anybody being or doing anything every day for like 30 years. Anything good or bad. Like if someone worked out every single day for 30 years, obviously they'd be like fit or something, right? Mm-hmm. But now you got people that have been on pharmaceutical drugs for 30 years, these boomers and stuff, and they've just been taking pills now for 30 years. So it's definitely affecting them, whether they know it or not. And I think the people that don't take them, we can kind of see like something's off about these people when you go out to the store or whatever and you see them and they're just in a daze, you know, walking around. But I think to them, and it happens so slowly in their life, that people probably close to them don't really notice the slow descent into that. They are drug addicts, really.
Yeah, well, also, if you're not experiencing that too, then you don't know what to look for. You're not going to be able to spot it. I mean, I can tell you right away what somebody is on just by looking at them, watching their body language and
Yeah,
behavior, because I have a whole, I mean, ton of experience with these types of people, you know.
I agree. It's alarming to me the amount of people that don't know
Oh
that.
my God.
Like they must have never seen anyone do drugs or grown up like completely sheltered from drugs or something, because
Yeah.
the the people we see out here, that's like obvious. There, you can just tell what they're on if you know what to look for. But then some people will just
Yeah.
see them and not think twice.
Yeah, and the heavy deniers too will have every excuse under the sun. They'll say they have this medical condition, this
Oh yeah.
medical condition. That's why, like, I'm slurring my speech, or I'm,
Well, I had a
acting.
mini stroke.
Yeah, but my mom used to say that one.
I just had a mini stroke.
That's literally a line she used to use, you know. And I think they get so entrenched in it, and anybody can fall victim to this too. It's not just an addict, that you tell yourself so many lies that you believe your own lies. And when you're at that point, it's very much life or death. But the medical industry is just a multi-billion-dollar industry at this point. That's what it is. It wants you and needs you in that revolving door.
Well, it's a
So you come
it's
with
a
the problem.
drug dealer industry, really.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you about that too, because I don't know if every state's rehabs are like this, but the Florida ones are like this. A lot of the higher up people that work there actually are addicts and know like where all the good, the quote unquote good shit comes from, the good drugs. And you'll see the stories like Florida man ODs on fentanyl, heroin, and all of that, but they actually send out the stuff to get people to overdose, because then the other addicts will see that news line and they'll think, oh, if they overdose, that's the good stuff. I want to go find that stuff. And then they'll go buy it from that area.
Oh.
That's true. That's facts. Because I worked in the medical, so like I've kind of seen some of the behind scenes of that. And then my brother also works in medical as well. And it's like we kind of share and swap stories of like just people we've met and, what we've observed. And that's one of the things that actually happens here. Not like, I don't know if every state is similar. I know Florida's known for its outrageousness.
I just think it's been so normalized over such a long period of time that the taking of pills, and then you see where that got us with the 19 over the last 2 years, where there was no rhyme or reason, or there was like, I'm sorry, there was zero talk of, hey, let's make sure you're eating good, make sure you're getting sunlight and exercise. Not one word of that was spoken. It was, well, we have a pharmaceutical that we can put in you that will fix everything.
Right, and I want to say that too, because it's not just even the chemical dependency type drugs that people take. It's all of the pills that the pharmacist gives you. So like if you have, let's say, a kidney condition, you take the pill. You take the poison and then your body breaks down because it's poison, and then they give you another pill to cope with that poison. So they're giving you poison to cope with the poison to cope with the poison, and it's just this big endless loop. And then you wonder why you feel sick and terrible all the time, and then they tell you, oh, well, you're probably depressed. So, you have this kidney issue and now you need these antidepressants to fix your brain. And I think it becomes like this tangled web to the point where you don't know what's the symptom, the cause, the effect of what. And you're just entrenched in it. And I think so many people get stuck in this. It's not just the people that are chemically addicted to, drugs and alcohol, like, the heroin or the meth, or, the legalized heroin and meth they give you that,
They give to kids as
yes.
the Ritalin.
Oh, and that's the thing too, because the secular person will deny God and the spirit, but then any issue that comes up, if you're struggling, their first thing is, oh, let's go see a doctor. Let's go see a psychologist, a psychiatrist. It's not like, let's look at what we're doing in our life and try to fix that in some way. So it's almost like the doctor is just the witch doctor. Because I know every time we drive by the Walgreens, like pharmacy thing, you're always like, oh, look, it's the witch's cauldron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In case you don't have Walgreens where you live, I'm sure it's everywhere, right?
I don't know.
But it's just like, yeah, it's like I don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah, there it
That's
is.
what I call it, the witch's witch's cauldron.
Where did it
Where'd it
go?
go?
There
Here
it
it
is.
is. It's like the thing they create the mocajete of drugs, right?
Yeah, because what I see with this is they'll blindly give their faith to a person that has a magical piece of paper from an institution in a school that has been completely run by propaganda. And then the person will sign it, and then you think they have this special power and authority to tell you what's good for your body when they're literally giving you poison.
And the doctor doesn't know you. It's
Doesn't know nothing
a
about
lot of
you.
times you could just go to a doctor for the first time, and after 5 minutes, they'll diagnose and prescribe you something. After five
Oh,
minutes, you know what I mean? I mean, think about how crazy that is. And you should be able to know your own body well enough after, especially if you're older or whatever, to know like what's going on with yourself. And
yeah.
again, we're not doctors, and I'm sure there is great doctors, and there's our conditions you do need medicine for. So I'm not saying
Yep.
100% of doctors are LARPs or anything, but it does. There's a big portion of it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. There are conditions, and there are really great doctors that are very knowledgeable that want to help people. But it's very sad because they tend to not be able to do the job they want to do because of all of these other things. And then the doctors that don't care. I've literally watched doctors kill patients because they weren't listening to the patient about their body before. That happens. And you can't even really sue the hospital either. They all have this like little paper you can see in like the front door. And again, I this is from where I live. So I don't know if every hospital in every state is like that, but like it basically says if we kill you or your family member, you're only going to get like a couple of $1,000s from a lawsuit. So don't sue us. You can't.
And another distinction I'd like to make is we're talking about what you call Western medicine, which is the complete inversion of the Eastern medicine, where they try to use holistic practices to cure the underlying causes of whatever the symptom that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
So the Western one is just mask the symptom, and then if new symptoms pop up, here's another something else to mask that symptom. But on the Eastern medicine, especially like the Chinese, what do you call it, like Chinese medicine, or the I know there, especially even in like the Indian style, I think they call it like Ayurvedic or something. I don't think I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying it right, but and that's a lot of it on that one is based around your diet. You got to eat a very specific diet for 7 days, 14 days or something to cure some problem because of an imbalance in your system. And you don't see anything like that in Western medicine at all. It's just pharmaca. Here, take this
Yes.
pill.
Yes, the witch doctor gives you the pill. But let's even look at the word holistic because that's an approach that the word itself literally means body, spirit, mind. So you have to treat all three of those if you're going to get better. The Western pharmaca approach to the medicine is we're just going to give you this for your body and your symptoms, but most of the time the problem's elsewhere. And you're not even taught to know, you're not taught to have the awareness in your own physical body to even know what that is. You should be able to be at the point where you can just kind of sit with yourself and sense what the problem is, or you should, kind of have the awareness of that. But that's been so like reverse taught out of us for years and years. People can't even do that anymore. That's why when like the slightest problem comes up, the first solution is, oh, let's go to the doctor, let's go to the psychiatrist.
Even society wide, we've been watching those First Amendment auditors, and the first sign of a potential, not even a confrontation, but maybe a
Mm,
potential confrontation, is the instinct of the person is let's call the police. So it's
yes.
the deferring to authority and don't handle anything yourself has been bred out of most Americans
Yeah.
completely. It's just like let's go to someone trained and specialized. I think they don't
Mm,
think they can do anything themselves.
See, that's interesting, and that kind of goes back to what we said in the beginning. It's like you can't really train the animal to have different instincts, but you can invert a man's instinct to where they're going to defer the power to somewhere else when your first instinct should be to defend yourself. You fix, deal with the problem. No one else is going to fix the problem for you.
Yeah, yeah, because like on these First Amendment audits, it'd be like, someone's just walking around filming in a public place, and these people freak out and, and call the police. But if you were really truly scared, I mean, how long is it going to take for the police to get there?
Yeah.
You would think you would try to handle it yourself
Mm-hmm.
before doing that. And then I got up on the screen, if you're listening to the audio of this later, I got up the definition of the word pharmacy, the etymology or whatever. And it comes from the Greek pharmakia. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but which comes from pharmakon, meaning drug, poison, spell. Right here on Wiki, it's not even like a hidden thing or anything. It's right on their own definition.
Yeah, and I think whether you believe that magic exists in that way or you think it's just a complete projection of the human mind onto the behaviors and like the body, that is what's happening. You're being put under that spell of giving all of your power to the witch doctor, the pharmacist, the psychiatrist, all of these people that, like you said, know nothing about you, know nothing about your situation, don't really care about that because they're not taught that in school. They're taught what's in that pharmacy handbook. They have like a one size fits all type approach, but it's like it tricks you into thinking that you need these things. And there's like, if you like, we talked about that in a different podcast too. Like, if you choose to not get your kids vaccinated, or if you choose to, not take these medications they give you, you're kind of seen as like a weirdo. They look at you like what? You're not gonna just do this. But the piece of paper, it's like signed by the doctor, and it's got to be worth something, right? Well, I think it's all a mind game, really. It's playing off of your emotions.
Even a lot of the medicine thing, like the placebo effect and everything like that. Just the fact that you think it's going to heal you. I'm sure there are things in there that do mask your symptoms, but I think the power of the mind is a lot stronger than most people think. And I think even on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you felt fine and you went into the doctor and they said, hey, you have this cancer and you have this long to live, or you have this, illness or whatever, then you're just gonna like manifest those symptoms. I know I saw that firsthand with my mom when she got sick and they told her, hey, you only have this much longer to live. Like she couldn't even handle the stress of that or whatever it was. And I think if she didn't know that, and I do think she was having health issues, but maybe she waited too long to go in. But I think if she didn't get that like diagnosis from a doctor, I don't think she would have deteriorated as fast. Now, obviously, I can never prove that, but my mom was one of these people that really deferred to the, to the doctor or to the police or whatever, to the authorities. So,
yeah, wow, yeah. A lot of the times, it is the stress that will kill you. It is the mind that will kill you before the physical symptoms. I went through similar with my mom. This one is a little different though, I guess, in the sense like, she was one of those people that thought she had every illness in the world and was just revolving in that medical door forever. And like all of her problems, I could look at her and tell was because of the way she was living her life. And a lot of it came from the drug abuse, but then she would write it off as like, oh no, I have fibromyalgia. I have like these medical like illnesses and I have these diagnoses from the doctor. So it's legit. And a lot of the doctors like knew she didn't actually have those illnesses, but they don't care. They just give you the pills. But she focused, and she wasn't a smoker like ever in her life. My father was, he passed away of lung cancer. She, after that, like she kind of had this like obsession with cancer, and she like would talk about it all the time. And I even heard her say things too, like, oh, I wish it was like me that died of that instead of him, And then lo and behold, 3 years later, with like tests, biopsies, that all came back negative for cancer. CAT scans, everything, all negative for cancer. She literally just dropped dead of lung cancer. It turned out later that went to her brain. She had like a tumor in her brain. But it was so wild because like it was this thing that she obsessed over for 3 years. And she wasn't like doing any of the things that they tell you, like, you know, if you smoke a lot, you're going to get this. So it was just very weird. Just,
Like the power of the mind.
yeah, definitely. You know, and I obviously I couldn't ever prove any of that, but it's like I do think the power of her mind in some way brought that about because it didn't make any sense. And even the doctors like that looked at her after, you know, like during when she was passing away and like after were like, yeah, we have no idea how this came about, you know. And she went through every test, came back negative. So it was pretty crazy.
And there's no like spiritual aspect of it. Like the Eastern one is like the diet, you know, or the acupuncture, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the Western one is the just basically mask the symptoms. But I don't think either one gets into like the diseases possibly being a manifestation of like a spiritual illness or whatever you want to call it.
I think they are most
Imbalance.
times. I think they are most times. Like I feel like and I believe that people can disagree with me. I really don't care because I feel like I personally observed that with my mom and her story, which I could get into that more, like maybe different podcasts. I don't know how long we are now because that's just a crazy story in and of itself. But um, definitely it's the things we repress and like push back and deny. That's why the denial is such a big thing. And like, I think it's really good that Benton doesn't do that because I feel like the denial is what's going to kill you more than anything. Because the more you're suppressing those issues, the more they're just festering in different ways. And I think that's what puts the stress on your body and your mind and causes you to break down.
Yeah, and I would love to hear from Coalitions of Seekers if he wants to write about any of it, because I don't know that much
Yeah,
about the Eastern
definitely.
medicine, but he's a practitioner of it. So if what you know they call it chi or whatever, I guess that would be the same thing as like
Mm-hmm.
spiritual energy, right? If there's like a blockage of your chi and stuff.
Yeah, that's also something I'm not like, I kind of understand the concepts, but I don't know much
Yeah,
about it.
because I said the Eastern doesn't really focus on it either, but I guess I, I'm corrected. I think because that's maybe I'm wrong on that too, though. I think that's what the chi is, but I'd love to hear anyone comment, but especially Coalitions of Seekers because he's actually trained in it.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But definitely on the West for sure, there's no concept of it, spiritualism or like spiritual blockages or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to figure out what that it's like up to the person to figure out what that is. And like the first thing is like if you're holding on to the sicknesses and you're in denial of your own problems, then yeah, that's likely gonna fester and kill you.
And then how did you want to connect the spirit animal to the drug addicted denialist losers?
I think the only way it really connects is not so much in like the idea of the spirit animal itself, but it's just kind of how the animal archetype is and like just animals themselves are like fully in their nature, like I've said like a million times before in this podcast. And they live that, but how, you know, mankind, because of the free will and the soul that we have and how we're created like in the image of the creator and of God, that it's so different for us than animals. And
I gotcha.
yeah. And because of the world we live in right now and how it's inverted, we have all this propaganda that's trying to trick us into reversing our nature and living backwards in pharmaca, you know, the meds and all of this stuff is really just meant to keep you down and stuck in that.
I think that's what they mean when they say that like a pole shift. I think that's what they're talking about is the inversion. It's not a physical flipping of the world, whether you believe it's a globe or whatever, or a magnetic north area moving. It's just the inversion of the human being's nature, and then you might even see that manifest in like the world geopolitics as like maybe even like the West was the the so-called world leader in the past. Maybe that will become like a third world country, and then the East, China, and everything may become the first world. and
Yeah.
Russia and everything. That would be the pole shift to me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just they invert the human, and then the manifestation on the game board would invert as well.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Quick question though
Yeah.
for you. Just like your thoughts on it, because there is such a, well, what do you think it is about the human spirit that's so different from the animal to where you can train the man to live inverted? You can domesticate the animal to an extent, but you can never train its instincts out of it.
The the free will, I guess, of the human being. Combination of things such as the people that we call Illuminati or whatever. I would say a different phrase, a better term is information controllers. So they
Mm-hmm.
have generations and generations of this knowledge that's kept hidden from the average person as far as how to get a human being into a state of like Stockholm syndrome and stuff like that. So I think it's almost like like the Farmika. It's like to think of it as like almost like a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Like not that it is, but it's a good way to think of it because with the imbalance of the knowledge, then they're able to just the human being, as I heard Davy Crocco says. So shout out to Davy Crocco. Go follow him on dlive.tv/the real Davy Crocco. But he says the human being is basically programmable matter, which is true. And you can look
Mm.
at it in the context we're talking about, or even a context of like, you can take a little kid and like Venus and Serena Williams' dad, whether or not you believe their whatever you believe of them and their biology, but you can take a little kid, Tiger Woods and everything, and program it to just become, with enough hours and training to become just like the best in the world at something. So it'd be
Mm.
the same types of things, but just on a more diabolical scale to program the human being to go against itself. And I don't know why they would do that unless it's just like a mad scientist type experiment to see if they can do it and to see like what would happen if they did do it.
I feel like that a lot of times, and I want to add, we can even tie this back to the spirit animals again, how that was a trend that took off and everybody just ran with it like they do. Because I think when you keep your mind that impressionable, that you need all of these like external things to be a powerful like person or human being, like it keeps you so malleable. Because whatever trend comes next after that, you're going to catch on to it just like you did with this one. And I think as long as they can keep you in that state of chasing these things and distracting you, excuse me, and keeping your attention and focus elsewhere, you're always going to be impressionable, malleable, and they're going to be able to push you in whatever direction they want. And I feel like it always has just been this big social, psychological experiment.
And the biggest part of it is the um mass media. So
Yeah, exactly. They can.
uh
Mm-hmm.
if people just grew up, if there was no TV and no newspaper or whatever, the only people that would be responsible for programming you would be your parents or whatever, your older siblings, and the people in charge of you. But then there's all these external forces that carry more weight inside the mind of the human being now, which is the TV shows and news and all that to program the human beings.
Yeah, and it's like all these different voices that aren't yours coming at you from all different angles and sources. And I think what I think is really beautiful is just silence. And I think people need more silence.
Yeah, and the animals don't talk, so that's part of it probably.
And you know what? I've heard it many times, and I think it's very true that silence is the language of God. You want to talk to God, you got to go sit down and be quiet, and you got to listen. It's like relearning how to listen. And I think if more people did that, you could really disengage from these things. And so much of this is just about disengaging.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop it at. So thanks to everyone that's listening. If you're listening on the Conspirotainment Radio Network, just search me up on YouTube, Chalk Body Outline. I got links to all my other links and all the videos there. Also, the backup channel is called Get Chalked Up. Catch me every Sunday night with Benton or other guests if he's not there on D Live at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 Central.
Yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Have a good night, good morning, whenever you're listening to this. Peace out.